Hey now, welcome to the dirty side of the track, America's leading Formula One podcast. I'm Brian, that's Rob. Today, about 2 minutes ago, was the podium from the Belgian Grand Prix. It was a long weekend with a sprint, a couple qualies, a lot of rain, some chaos. How you doing, Rob?
Mm, I'm doing okay. My brother-in-law and sister-in-law and family have been over for the week. I took the week off. I think I've been out at the pub every day. I'm
Living the dream.
close to turning this podcast into a darts podcast instead because I've been getting into the World Championships, and we're going to go off and have some more beers and watch the final of that later on this afternoon. Before that, we're going to discuss which, Mother Nature aside, was a pretty rubbish race weekend?
Yes,
Question.
question. I think I would
Um,
agree. I
yeah,
would at
well,
least say not a banger. Let's say it's
it,
at best
yeah,
medium.
yeah. If we could, well, we'll get there. Let me keep my powder dry. So we will do a look at news and social, which was very slim pickings this week. We will open up the video vault and probably close it straight away because that was also slim pickings. So then we can jump straight into the race weekend, pull all the bones out of that, listen to a three-parter from Pitlane Paul, take a look at see where we are championship standings before we preview Hungary. And that, as they say, will be that.
It sounds good.
So, yeah, wow. Normally, about midweek, after we've done the podium predictions, which again were late this week because I was out drinking. I was at a theme park. Did my podium predictions at a theme park. It just took
I
me two
like that.
days to upload them. Anyway, I normally just put F1 news into my search bar, and I'm spoilt for choice for all the different media outlets that I can grab all these different things from. And normally I'll see one story that catches my attention, and I'll go and verify it to make sure I can find it on a couple of others, so I'm not just putting clickbait rubbish all over our news and social. However, not a lot happened this week. We had Max rumors pretty much died away, so everyone was in a frenzy on media day on Thursday to see what was going on, and also to get some airtime with the new team principal over at Red Bull. But they're basically saying that Max looks like he's happy. The escape clause is likely to be him being fourth or below, which George ain't catching him before
Nope.
the break, so
Nope.
that one ain't happening. And even if he did, he doesn't have to trigger it. And by the way, Toto, when quiz said both drivers will be heading into the summer break comfortable. And is that, I think they said on the commentary, is that because he's bought them a couple of comfy chairs, or is he sending them off into the summer with two shiny contracts? It's all silly season. The thing that we tried to predict the other week about, oh yeah, Max holds all the cards. I don't know. There's any cards.
I think I
There's
may
no
have gotten that one
cards.
wrong too. I was sort of hoping, I was willing chaotic silly season into effect, and I failed. Yeah, it seems like he's going to stay at Red Bull. Seems like he's going to be there for 26. And everything I saw, he could leave in 27 if he wanted to. But kind of to your point last week, who knows who's nailed the regs, right? Why would you jump ship unless you know someone has a better car? No, you don't know that until you go,
Yeah.
see them on track in 26. So I think you said it well last week, and I think you got it right. Probably a nothing burger. He stays there. He just apparently wanted a vacation with Toto in Sardinia and do their thing. That was
And all of the really poorly Photoshop and video equivalent of Photoshop edited videos that weren't real that half the internet fell for as well. They're walking together to his private jet. Yeah, that's a clip of Toto from about 3 years ago and a clip of Max whenever ago merged together into a fake. So they may have been in Sardinia at the same time, but none of the other stuff that we saw was real. So there we go.
I heard they went to a Coldplay concert together and were seen on the Kiss Cam. Speaking of things though that might be real, Paul, can you weigh in on this? Pitlane Paul, if you're listening to this, please weigh in. But I saw a quote speaking of Toto and comfort, um, talking about Lewis, and Toto said he's maintained being a friend. After many Grand Prix, he travels back with me, so we have the old gang. Bottas, Russell, Hamilton, and me flying from the races. What about Kimmy? You leaving Kimmy out? How's Kimmy getting around? Is he on the school bus? What's happening with Kimmy? Is what I wanted to know. But Paul, is that accurate? Is Valtteri often flying back with Lewis, George, and Toto? And if so, where is Kimmy? Can we get an answer on that, please? I'm curious. The next one I heard as well. I love this story. I'll let you do it because you put it in here. But this one is
Yeah, I didn't. I
awesome.
quickly grabbed it, but I didn't go and get the details. So, and if you happen to know the details of the other guy that gets the record, that would be great because I didn't get his name. But anyway, Ollie Behrman went on holiday. And of course, when you go on holiday, what you want to do is, get away from it all, not do the thing that your day job is. So what did he do? He went and found a karting track and spent about 3 days trying to break the track record. He finally did. There's a great picture of him there with his name up on the board, and he'd signed the board, taking it away from this Swedish guy that had held the track record for a while, who wasn't happy. So went back and spent the next few days, or however long it was, trying to retain it. And in fact, he did. But the thing that caught my eye was that when have you Googled the guy? Do we know his name?
No,
I was padding while you were looking him up.
I
Never
don't
mind.
care.
Okay, Swedish guy. Sorry, Swedish guy, if you're listening. We'll send you a T-shirt. He got the lap record back, and when they put him next to the board, it was a very different board. It wasn't the previous board. I will wager that the karting track wanted to keep Ollie Behrman's signature on the lap record track. That is now hanging up somewhere, and they just bought a new board to put all the new lap records on. Because why would you? Right? It's a chalkboard. You don't want to lose Ollie Behrman's signature. It's probably on eBay already.
Definitely not. But part of the story I enjoyed when they talked about it was Ollie's girlfriend said to him, "Why don't you go see if you can set the track record?" And it took him 3 days. So he didn't get it the first day, but instead of giving up, he came back the second day and then didn't get it. And he goes, "Hold on, I'm not giving up." Came back a third day to get it. That is what I love. That's the part of the story that's great. You're on holiday. Should we go to the beach today? I got to go back and get this record. I'm like, what about tomorrow? We're going to go look at the museums. I don't have the record yet. I'll see you later. I got to get back to the track. And then he gets the record, and then the guy, the old record holder, come and takes it back. But it is what it is. One other piece of news: this whole second team thing.
I can't believe you just skipped over my joke.
Say it. It's that funny.
I can't believe you. No, it was funny, and now you've ruined it because now it won't be funny.
Hi, I'm
you've already
Rob.
skipped
I'm Rob,
No.
and my joke was going to be, will Franz Herman turn up and take the record? Okay.
Go on. Get on with your rubbish story. What have you found?
The FIA is working to kind of put some additional provisions in the second team item. And so they're looking through it. Nicholas Timbasis, who we mention all the time on this here podcast, and we don't know anything about him. We got to bring him in. They're putting additional parts in Section F, the operational regulations, to make sure that teams, the A team and the B team, have stops in place so that the relationship can't be as close to have collaboration. And so they, from technology all throughout the book, they're putting more in, but especially Section F, the operational regulations. So if anyone was worried that we would have a similar situation when Danny Rick went for a fastest lap and teams are sharing too much info, and it's all, let's be honest, Red Bull and RB, they're making sure that that's not as tight going forward. And finally, Rob, are you excited? Rumor has it that next year's sprint calendar has been released. The rumors are that it's China, Miami, Canada, Great Britain, Netherlands, and Singapore for sprints. But that means we and Canada would have a sprint weekend in addition to our time there. That's exciting, or no? You don't care? I care. I think it's better than FP3 and 2.
Well, we'll discuss my thoughts on that when we get there. So it'd be yet to see. Oh, I don't know. We don't know if this is true. This hasn't come through any official things yet. We're sort of saying, did Zandvoort accidentally leak it? Well,
Right.
Maybe, but the jury's out on the whole sprint thing for me. Let's just say it still needs work. I think I might have preferred watching FP3 this weekend to the sprint.
Really?
We'll get there. Yeah, we'll get there. There's still something just not quite close but no cigar about the whole thing.
I think when it works, it's great, and when it doesn't work, it's still better than FP3.
Okay. Well, we will get there, and we're going to get there very quick, because do you want to play the 2 sound effects to open and close the video vault?
We can do it. We'll just talk over it. I was on a crazy work trip this week. Had a great time seeing all my colleagues and my friends, and just had a blast, and because of that, I had 0 minutes to watch any videos. So it's opened, it's closed, we're out, we're done. Let's get to the weekend.
Let's get to the weekend. Right, okay. We had one practice session. And when it's a practice session of a sprint quali, actually does make practice a bit more interesting, because people are scrambling to try to work out all of their
You got 1
bets
hour
for
to
the
get
weekend.
everything.
You got 1 hour to get your sprint stuff sorted, your quali stuff sorted, and your race day sorted, and the threat of rain coming. So right at this point, all of the ingredients were great. We've got limited practice, we've got rain forecast, and then all that really happened in practice was everything we kind of knew. McLaren were quick, Red Bull, Mercedes, and Ferrari all kind of looked about the same behind them. Sainz got engine trouble the moment he came out of the pits and had to go back, and we didn't have any rain. That was practice. We had no drama whatsoever. Nobody went off. Nothing. So, wow, what foreshadowing was that for things to come? But anyway, we, we moved on to sprint quali, where actually this is a bit of a maybe we could cut some kind of story through here. This is are we going to equate Hamilton maybe to Sonny Hayes? That's maybe a bit too dramatic, but we have a story arc here that is going to start off terrible for this individual, and I think there is a redemption arc to it eventually in the race. But Lewis Hamilton has an absolute stinker. He goes out in SQ1 from what looks like a completely random rear wheel locking. He hadn't even started properly braking for the corner yet. Even like Brundle was like, that's not a driver error. That is just the back wheels just suddenly went, yeah, we're done. We fancy stopping now.
Like downshift, stop shifting completely and lock up. I mean, that was crazy. Yeah, there was, to your point, there were things that kind of cut through the weekend, right? So one being Kimi and Lewis having just atrocious qualifyings all weekend long. Neither one of them got out of SQ or Q1. And so to your point, Lewis locks it up. Kimi struggled with the car, with the way everything came together in Qualy. Lewis did have the hero arc in the race, but Kimi sadly didn't. This was a weekend for him to forget completely. So the thing that I enjoyed is we watched the chaos, right? We lose Kimi, we lose Franco, we lose Lewis, we lose Nico, and we lost Alex in SQ1. But then it kind of like you saw this, the teams that you would expect to be near the top were near the top, with the exception of those that we just talked about. So you would see Stroll, Alonso. Boy, the Aston Martins had a bad weekend. They both went out in SQ2. They did. George struggled a bit. Liam and Yuki on the old setup goes out in SQ2. He's going to eventually get to the new setup. I have a question about that. I'll hold it till we get to the quali. But like, why did they have his floor and they didn't have it on? They just didn't feel like bolting it on before?
I don't know. And it does, again, there's a little bit of an arc coming for Yuki. There's a redemption story, which then pretty much falls flat on its face on the other side. So we've got all these, that's me thinking it wasn't a great weekend, but we've got all these.
Well, it's because we're two nerds who love this stuff.
Have stories embedded through all of this. Yeah. So we end up with SQ3, Piastri with an epic lap, like 4/10, nearly 5/10 clear of
track
the
record
second. It was just absolutely rapid. Like I say, ahead of Max, Lando, Charles, Ocon putting a Haas up in fifth. Sainz putting a Williams up in sixth. Errrm in the other Haas. What's going on here? Alpine, Hajar, and Bortoletto.
Another storyline. Yeah, exactly. Yes. We were both commenting. It feels like every week you see a little bit more from Gabriel. That he just seems to have something there.
He's growing into this race car, and maybe the Sauber doesn't stink as much as it did last year as well. And those two things coming together, him maybe growing into the role, a bit more confidence, and a car underneath him that's not as much of a tractor that Valtteri had to drag around, or Zhou. It's just helping both of these two out. Hulk and Bort, but definitely Bort.
Agreed. And I think Wheatley even said that. They interviewed the team principal at one point, and the question was, are we watching Bortoletto come into his own? And Wheatley is like, he's always been there. It's just he's getting more confidence, more experience, and now the car is under him as well. So, yeah, it's fascinating to watch Bortoletto do these things. But now we have the opportunity. I'm going to play the music now because we have a three-parter, as we often do on sprint weekends, from Pitlane Paul. But let's talk about who that is with his music. Love it. Let's hear from Paul on Friday.
Hey no, my American friends from over here in a really sunny United Kingdom of England. I won't include Wales, but I do like the Welsh, because Rob is sort of a little bit Welsh. Well, he says he is, but...
No, I don't.
Brian thinks he's a little bit Irish.
I do.
But then all Americans think they're Irish. It's ironic that, you know, you started a war in order to get your land back, and now all you actually want to be is British yourselves. But anyway, I digress.
We do.
I digress, my good friends. As it's Belgium, it is the home of French fries. Believe it or not, true fact. I think I've used that before. And it's the first of a... what can I call this one? Well, we've used Snatch. I'm going to call it the first of a triple gooch. So the first of a triple gooch, and we've just had sprint qualifying. And golly gosh, wasn't it exciting, children? We had a lot of good cars go out very early. Kimi went out, he did a little spin, and then dragged loads of gravel on the track, which sort of like took a few of the cars out. I mean, not that it really took Lewis out. Lewis screwed up a little bit before that. But what we did see, and for anyone who wants to have a little lesson in track evolution, we saw the greatest spectacle of track evolution in qualifying 2. When it didn't matter if you were driving a tractor, you were going to go faster than you did on the first run of that entire session. So golly, wasn't it exciting. We had Hasses, we had Saubers, we had Menardes, we had Arrows. All of these cars are in the top 10 all of a sudden. And we lost big players. We lost George Russell. And we lost Yuki, but I guess that's sort of a standard thing now, sadly. And then, yeah, it then went on to Quali 3. Lando did a Lando and it sort of sucked a little bit. Oscar was diamond. To be that far ahead just shows the step up there. And then, to be honest with you, we talk about track evolution, and you didn't really see a massive amount of it because everyone can only do one lap. But that was the sprint qualifying. I know you've got the orange man running the country. His slogan was obviously "Make America Great Again." I'm going to run one called MAFA, which is... Oh, that doesn't work at all, does it? Mufgra. Anyway, make Fridays great again. And that made Friday fantastic. And I will see you tomorrow for the second part of the gooching, the middle gooch tomorrow. Today was the outer gooch. Now we're going to have the middle gooch. Anyway, enjoy your Friday, folks. It's pointless me saying that because by the time they've released this, Friday will have gone. Probably easier for me to say, I hope you enjoyed your Friday. And if you didn't, there's always another Friday. And that will be next Friday, which will be Budapest race weekend. So there's something to look forward to there. I'll shut up now. Bye.
My favorite part of when Pitlane Paul tries to figure out when he records it early and then it comes out days later, the difference between those time frames. Like that example. Have a great Friday. But when you hear this, it'll be Sunday. Hold on a second.
And actually, this is why he's the professional and we're not. He's right. The track evolution in SQ2 was insane.
Yeah,
it was just like they bolted an extra 100 horsepower on everybody's car and said, yeah, go on, there's a little boost for your second run. It was crazy. We were just watching those times come down and people were, I think it was, let me get this right. Who was it? SQ2, who were we losing? Was it Lando that ended up being in 10th spot? He'd got a time that looked really, really good, and he was just falling. I was like, oh my God, Lando's going to get nudged here. But in the end, he ended up like securing like 9th or 10th because whoever it was in that next round couldn't squeeze him out. It was insane, the track evolution. So we went from the highs of, a pretty good sprint qualifying because, like Paul said, some big cars ended up at the wrong end of the grid. So maybe that would give us some action on Sprint Saturday. Okay, I'm going to read my review and then let Brian do his because he obviously found way more. My whole sprint review is start. Max gets Oscar. Charles got Lando. Lando gets Charles back. End of sprint. And this all happened by about the first corner, ladies and gentlemen. Not the first corner. The first run down La Source all the way through down to the Kemmel Straight and boom. Then you could have turned it off and you wouldn't have missed anything as we had, whatever it was, 15 laps of an elongated driver parade so that all the fans could wave at the cars going past in order with no risk of
So tell me what you
whatsoever.
really thought about the sprint.
I it's so bad, so bad. Go on, you found some other stuff to write about, but
Well, first of all, it was a fascinating start. So at 4 a.m., 5 a.m., something like that, I recorded it and then woke up in time to watch that and then be live for Qualy. And I'm like, all right, this will be great. I'll get a couple doses of racing. I'll get the sprint, and then I'll get the Qualy for the race. And I turn on the television, and YouTube TV will not play it. No matter what I do, it just keeps telling me the recording is not there. And I'm like, hang on a second, what's going on? Thank God I'm fortunate enough to also have an F1 TV subscription, so I pop over to that. And it took me forever to get that thing fired up and running, and I watched it, and I'm like, all right, here we go. And all of a sudden, they show Pierre standing outside the car, and they say, Pierre will not be running due to an oil leak. But you watch him lick his earbuds, as drivers often do, kind of like lick them and put them in their ear. And I'm like, well, why would he be doing that if he's not going to run, if this oil leak's going to keep him out of the sprint? And I was very confused. And so we pan away from that, assuming he's not starting. Franco's in the pit lane. Alpine's having a disaster. And as you say, all of the action that occurred, you nailed it. I'm not going to add to it. I don't want to be redundant. You nailed basically all the action. And then we see very little happen after that, except Stroll passed Alonso, and we never heard about it. I only saw it on the board. I'm like, did that happen? I'm like, and I had to go back to the grid. I go, Stroll passed Alonso. We had a pass. No one showed it. No one, the TV direction problem, which will come back. And then all of a sudden, the gas man's in the race. What? You said he wasn't racing, and he's on the bottom of the board. And then Crofty Crofty, wherever I was listening, I guess Alex Jakes, was just as confused as we were that he was running. And then he didn't finish. So did Pete Gasly pull a DNS and a DNF at the same time? I don't understand how that works. I mean, he obviously started at some point, 2 laps down, but then didn't finish. It was an epic day from Alpine. But we wouldn't know because of the TV direction issues. And then Lewis finally got past Albon, who'd been trying to pass Alonso. We didn't see any of that either. And I'm like, what is happening? They were showing the in-lap of everybody at the end of this boring race, and they didn't show us Lewis pass Alex? The TV direction was just atrocious. But that said, you're right, the sprint was really boring, and here's the next theme. Pass someone on the first lap at the end of the Kemmel Straight, and the race is over.
yeah, I mean, do you know what? TV direction issues, you're right, there may be lots of them, but even if they got them right, you can't polish a turd. So let's move on to Quali. So the big change, I guess, what we saw in the sprint was that Max went with a really skinny wing, and they rolled the dice brilliantly, Red Bull. You know, even if I didn't enjoy the sprint, let's just do a proper review here and kind of give them their dues. So they looked at this and said, right, in order to beat the McLaren, what we're going to need to be is super quick down the straights and then just hang on for dear life through all the fast corners where they're absolutely going to kill us, and then just hope we can hang on to that so that we can floor it again all the way down the straight and they won't get us. If you ever wanted a visual of that, it was Max without DRS. When he took the lead on the Kemmel Straight, you could see, I know you couldn't see it because it's invisible, but you could basically see a slipstream in real time. Because you just, the camera shot from above where Max just cruised up, and as soon as he got into that kind of suction vortex area, it was just, he breezed past him. No DRS whatsoever. And that's how they wanted to play that, and it was absolutely brilliant. But they knew they couldn't rely on that for the rest of the weekend. So then they tweaked it and put more downforce onto the car for qualifying because everyone was worried about the rain that was potentially coming for Sunday. So,
which
you
caught Max out at Silverstone when he
exactly,
had the lower downforce. So he didn't want to rerun the exact same thing.
100%. So we saw Max come out with a much bigger rear wing on than he'd run through the sprint. So I thought, fair dues. That's a good strategy call from Red Bull there. They wanted to play it a certain way to maximize sprint chances, and it worked, even if the race sucked.
Yeah. So we go to Quali for the main race. Max now with more downforce, to Rob's point, as we started this off. He puts a little extra on for the race. And the craziest pit lane start I can remember to a Quali session. A Ollie comes out ahead of Fernando. Was it close? Was it an unsafe release? No. Was it close? Yeah. Does Fernando make every single unsafe release look like the end of the world? Yes. He slams his brakes. He moves the wheel left and right for no apparent reason. He basically throws his arms up and spills his coffee on his lap and is like, hey, this guy cut me off. There should be a grid penalty. I've never seen anything as atrocious in my life. Driving like that's going to risk someone's life. A car's going to be broken. And it was nothing. However, what wasn't nothing, I've never seen a 3-mile-per-hour crash before. Stroll and Hulkenberg. Stroll is in the fast lane. Hulkenberg and there's rules. If you get your tire over the white line in front of somebody, you're allowed to go through. So Hulk's going through. His mechanic's waving him in. And Stroll's like, nah, I'm going to pretend that's all mine, and just keeps going. And they hit each other at 3 miles an hour in the pit lane. I've never seen something so dumb in my life. And I'm thinking, well, that's fascinating. I don't know. I was just kind of shocked by that. I don't know. It's like I get it
like
and I don't get it. I'm trying to figure out a good way to like make a rule for this, but I don't know.
It was a pathetic contact. It was like if you ever raced your kids when they were really, really small at those really underpowered go-karts that only go about 4 miles an hour.
Right.
Like, yeah, you sort of little nudge as you go past them, and that was what it was. It was just, yeah, I'm with you on Alonso. He enough like to. Some people sort of say, "Oh, he's clever, isn't he? Clever pulling those." No, it's not clever. He just moans. I'm not quite sure why moaning is clever, but
the histrionics that go with it. It's the yanking the wheel left and right, and the braking, and oh my, I almost, my teeth almost came out on the steering wheel. I hit it so hard, kind of situation. Like, Fernando, come on, man. But anyway, the bad quality continued for Lewis and for Kimi, and at this point in Q1, we lose Lance. And Fernando, again, and a weekend to forget for Aston Martin. All you Aston Martin fans out there, sorry. And as I said, Kimi, Lewis, and Franco all went out in Q1.
Well, Lewis didn't, but then did, right? Lewis
Didn't,
put in a lap, was way up in sixth or wherever, and poor old Bortoletto was the fall guy that wasn't going to make it out of Q3 despite all of his promise. And then all of a sudden, we get the flash up on the TV, lap time deleted for Lewis Hamilton, exceeding track limits, and he did, and them's the rules, and at least they did it this time. They didn't take 45 minutes to delete the lap time, so...
Exactly. Exactly. And interestingly, so Bortoletto, who'd been 16th, now promoted to 15th with Lewis's time deleted, lives to fight another day, but he doesn't even go out in Q2. He's like, you thought I was going to go out in Q1? Oh, you're wrong. And so in Q2, we lost Sainz, Hulkenberg, the Gas Man, Ollie, and Esti Besti all out in Q2. No Bortoletto. Good job by the board man.
Which means, he out-qualifies Hulk again.
Again, 7-6 or something like that?
Yeah, I think he's taken the lead, hasn't he?
I feel like that's right.
I feel like it's got to be close to being right. And if it's not, we'll just claim it is and run with it.
Done.
So, and then we went into Q3. Could Oscar pull out another phenomenal lap like he had in sprint quali? It was a tale of almost. So everybody went out and did their first run. I think Lando had provisional pole. Everyone went out for the second, and we may be expecting some track evolution here, but I'm not going to pretend to understand what cloud cover, air temperature, and things do. But
the Qualy cloud.
Yeah, the Qualy cloud didn't seem to help anybody here, and nobody. I'm not even sure Norris went any quicker, and Norris went out first, didn't he? So Norris came over and hadn't gone better. Max, or maybe Max even went first. Max couldn't get close with the bigger wing. He was like nearly half a second off the pace. So it's now, Charles put in a decent lap, got himself third. Oscar, I was convinced was going to take pole. The way it was kind of tracking, I'd kind of got it in my head that if you came round what was the bus stop chicane with, I think you had to be at 35 on the clock. That would almost put you at 40-something as you cross the line. This is going to be close. And it was. There was not a lot in it. Oscar couldn't do it, so Lando took pole. So good job, Lando there. But yeah, Bortoletto. Okay, he might have only made it 10th. Like you say, he was out. He was out in Q1, working out on what his long haul from the back was going to look like. And suddenly he's starting in 10th position. That's such a good result for him.
It is. And it was fascinating, like you say, watching the times drop. The part that, again, the TV direction left me wanting, because at this point, I took a picture of the times and I popped it in. We're watching people kind of cool down on their in-laps. And all of a sudden, sorry, Alex Albon was still out on the track. He's fifth. What? First of all, great job by Albano in a car that hadn't looked great. In fifth, I mean, that's phenomenal, but you didn't know he was on a hot lap? No one looked at the driver tracker and said, oh, there's some cars still out there. Let's maybe not wrap it up. Instead, let's talk about the fact that someone could potentially do something here. Did they just assume he was, did he go, I mean, I didn't see his time because we didn't know anything about it. Was he yellow, purple? I mean, like, what was the reason to have abandoned coverage of his existence in Q3? I didn't get that. That annoyed the crap out of me.
No, I agree. It was just a bit bizarre. There was lots of TV issues. Let's put it that way.
So Rob, question for you. I
Mm.
noticed this as we were kind of looking at the end of Qualy and then the time for the grid setup. 2 Mercedes customer teams ahead of the works team. 2. So McLaren obviously has built a rocket ship, okay? So like you kind of get used to having the McLaren ahead of the Mercedes. But a Williams ahead of the works Mercedes at George Russell? Toto must not have been pleased to have seen 2 of their customer teams ahead of them.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, how much power difference do you think there is between each engine, really? Wouldn't you say aero plays more of a? It's not what the engine is putting out; it's the shell that it's wrapped in. And if it's wrapped in a tractor shell, then it tends to hit a lot of drag. And I mean, you're right. But if it was the like India or wherever, where they're all sharing the same chassis, the
Right.
same aero and stuff, and just how you tweak it, you'd be absolutely gutted. But yeah, I know what you mean. It's not a good look for Mercedes, but at the end of the day, I don't think it's all just about the engine either. But you seem to be obsessed with Max being in fourth. You put in the note Max fourth question mark. I was like, why the question mark? Yes, he finished fourth.
No one's ever won from fourth at Spa, and it's on the less favorable side of the grid. And at that point, it's also tough into La Source because now you're like the first of the top cars dealing with tons of traffic. Number 1, you get your choice. 2, you got to kind of navigate. By 4, you've got people behind you, all around you. It makes La Source harder to nail, and then kind of costs you time. So
I think you're
fourth
getting
is just
caught up with that.
wrong side of the grid. Never won from there.
I mean, they never won. I mean, so what? There's probably a few places that haven't been won from, but fourth, you've still only got one car in front of you.
On your side of the grid, correct.
Yeah, yeah. It's hardly like this. The way you on the dreaded fourth spot. Dreaded fourth spot. You just got all caught up in all of Crofty's. They seem to get all obsessed about fourth as well. Although, still haven't won from fourth, so I guess.
And I
it's
will say it
dreaded.
had been a pretty boring weekend so far, so I was grasping at anything to say, fourth place. Never won from there.
Yeah,
All
I
right,
know.
so
I'll give you it.
let's
I
hear-
was just having to hit revenge after you ruined my joke earlier, so now I feel we're even.
Okay, well, I appreciate it. Let's hear from Paul on Saturday's action.
Hey now, the second gooch, I am going to do this in 2 parts, but it's still going to be the second gooch because you're not really going to know when I stop talking about it. Which is actually, again, lies. I don't know what's going on with me, this review and the review before. I seem to be very, I don't know the right word. Obviously, you'll know when I stop talking about it because I will have stopped talking about the sprint race, which, by the way, isn't going to take long. And then I'll start talking about qualifying, which then will have happened and obviously has happened. And as has the race happened, because, I'm not going to do all that again. But Max has just won the sprint race. Oscar was second. And who was third? Lando. It wasn't much, was it? It was pretty poor. So, yeah, see you after quali. And just like that, he's back for Gooch 2.1. Well, no, it sort of doesn't work. So, Quali 1 has just happened, and yeah, shock horror. I mean, I say shock horror because, I mean, 1, Sonoda isn't in it, which, is great. Not knocking Yuki, love Yuki. 2 Aston Martins, I mean, yeah, been sluggish all weekend. Kimi Antonelli, yeah, I mean, all this discussion with Max replacing George at Mercedes, have you got to look at maybe, it sort of like doesn't help these little rumours, does it? But anyway, such is life. And then Lewis, I thought was really harsh, but the rules are the rules, and as Sky have just said, he is over. So lap time deleted, and then Colapinto again. Well, we've just seen Esteban Ocon's family in the garage for probably the 58th time, and they don't look like they've moved. Maybe they're stuffed. Anyway, featuring 8 minutes after the end of Quali 2.
I didn't know he'd done these.
So
per
Q2
session.
all done. So Gooch 15.6. And Bortoletto's quite a shock to be up there, but I think he's been okay all weekend. Not the massive track evolution we saw yesterday. I want to give a massive shout out to Yuki. Finally Q3, finally showing something in that car.
They finally gave him some upgrades.
That's excellent. Apart from that, standard really. I think. Am I being harsh? Carlos Sainz, I think, would be disappointed looking at the sprint, but one more session to go. One more tiny gooch to flick through. Speak soon. Oh well, that was qualifying. I'm gonna start nicely. I'm gonna start by just really saying well done to Yuki. We've made him king of the pits. I have, you have. He sort of turned into the new Lance Stroll, really, hasn't he? In Perez, to seems to be the guy that, ironically, Perez. But of course, it's not the car, it's the driver, according to Rob. Anyway,
Yeah, Rob.
One
You're
digresses again. Fair play, Yuki. Finally getting something out of the car. Finally, they're putting bits on it that he can drive, which is good. Was Christian holding him back? There we go. That's a story for you too. Then what we got? Behrman was crying about being blocked there, whatever. And then he didn't get through. Then it was just sort of what it was really. Bortoletto didn't do anything. It was a bit of a drab session. Lando gets pole. Now, I must remind you that pole position here is actually yes, you want to be pole, always want to be pole. Why would you never want to be pole? That's the big question that everyone's asking. In Spa, it is a disadvantage, to be honest, to be pole. I would be shocked if at the end of the first lap tomorrow, Oscar Piastri is not winning this race because of the exact thing that happened only a few hours earlier. Of course, you guys will know already what's happened because you'll be recording this when you've watched the race, so you'll be already reviewed probably the fact that we're not doing this again. That is the middle gooch. Probably my favourite gooch because looking at the race earlier on, I can't see tomorrow's gooch or the latter gooch being gooch worthy of any kind of celebration. So we must celebrate the gooch of today and enjoy. As tomorrow, it could be a terrible gooch. The only saving grace is it could also be a wet gooch. Now, that's going to be good based on Silverstone and based on the fact that it's Spa. It can rain in one part of the circuit and not the other. So that is genuinely true. And also it can sort of rain without any notice. So tomorrow's gooch will be exciting. It could be wet. It could be dry. It could be a tricky gooch to get around. So looking forward to it. And I will see you tomorrow for the final gooch, wet or dry gooch, whatever. It could be a tricky, slippery old gooch.
I do love Paul's ability to figure out the space-time continuum each time he figures out when this is being recorded and published. It confuses me by the end. So
before we move to the race, let's hit on what we were talking about earlier, sprint races. Sprint race format is still broken, even when we can get a good one. It seems it's really, really track specific. Some tracks lend themselves to being a good sprint. Some just don't. Spa has to firmly go into one that doesn't. I looked at our notes from the one 2 years ago, and other than because we had a crash and we had a safety car, nothing happened in it either, right? It's terrible at Spa, and people still don't want to take risks because why do you now, especially since they rejigged the format? Now sprint happens right before main quali, and there's only a few hours in between, you have no chance whatsoever to fix any major damage. If you snap off a front wing or you maybe get a little bit of damage, you've got time to do it, right? But anything more than that, you're going to miss Qualy. And now you're going to start at the back for the main event. So no one's really trying. There's a couple of little throws of it, and then, like, Max didn't have to do a lunge or do anything desperate. He just had better straight line speed, made the move, and that was literally it. I think I would rather have watched FP3 and had more intrigue looking at when people start doing their long runs versus their quali runs, trying to work out what I'm going to do with my fantasy team. Who is the fastest? Do I believe that soft run? Were they going low fuel just for the lap time to look showy? Because at least there's interest there. They've either got to work out a set of tracks that work for sprints and stick to it.
Yes.
Because this rotation stuff is crap. Because we end up with race. It was just boring. I actually almost wish I hadn't watched it.
Well, that's the end of the podcast. Thanks for listening, everybody. We're turning into a darts podcast. Okay, I'll at least give you this, grumpy old man Vale.
Yeah, go on.
I do agree you got to find the tracks where this works, where there's
Miami
enough
works,
early
right?
overtaking. Yeah, so the two that I like are Coda and Interlagos. I feel like those sprints have delivered. And thankfully, if the rumors are true, neither one is a sprint next year.
This is what I mean. It's like, I was talking to somebody online on Threads about, was the sprint format better when there was more on the line for it when it decided the grid order for the main race? And this really tears me in half, right? Because part of me hated Qualy not determining pole. Qualy defined the sprint order, then the sprint finishing order defined the race order. So I didn't, from a purist perspective, that didn't sit well with me. But now that we've gone through a couple of incarnations of this sprint format, I'm looking back here and going, at least there was something to fight for. Like, where you finished the sprint impacted your Sunday. Now they've gone the polar opposite, where they're trying to completely separate it as two separate events. And me and you kind of commented at the time, oh no, we like the way they're doing that. We like the way they're splitting it out to be two different things. But something isn't quite working there.
I'm telling you, a Le Mans style start where you have to stand opposite your cars, get yourself bolted in and get off, and using the FIA cars. Or sorry, the F1 Academy cars. I would see the Academy cars, Le Mans style start. Then there's no jeopardy. I think that would be great. So we get to the race. We're obviously padding because there's really not much more to talk about. The race was also a bit of a snoozer. We obviously
So I'm going to have to hold you in contempt.
I mean, there was things that happened. But...
No, I would say you split this race into wherever it was. Where
the pit stops happened.
When did the rain dry? So the first
the
15, 16 laps were phenomenal. Thoroughly enjoyed the first 15, 16 laps. And then when it dried... Then we have some more Rob's rants to come later.
Well, I mean, mine, you've shared a lot of your rants. We'll get to mine, too. I have one in particular. But so Lewis started from the pit lane. Kimi started from the pit lane. Fernando started from the pit lane. It was raining, an hour 20 delay. We finally get going under the safety car. And, by the way, just real fast, Nico Rosberg, we've talked about him a lot. You either love him or hate him, right? There's really not a lot in between. I'm on the love him part right now, even though I've also been on the hate him part at times. He had some good Lewis stories where he was talking about them when they were friends as kids, and like they showed the picture of them on a quad bike, and he talked about the jet ski story when Lewis like cut his face all open because he wouldn't lift ever, and just those were great. However, did you see? And I missed this live. I saw it on Twitter. Did you see him interviewing Jos Verstappen?
No.
On the grid walk? Oh, my God.
No, I didn't.
OMG. He said, now that Horner is no longer with the team, are you happy about that? And Jos said, well, I didn't say he should be let go. And Nico did, yeah, you did, all of last year. And Jos says, I don't have anything to say about it. And Nico goes, now you're going to be quiet?
Oh, man.
It was wild. This guy is just going crazy out there. So anyway, so we get a rolling start, which I thought was dumb, Rob thought was dumb, Paul thought was dumb. And so we were trading texts about it. And then, just like I said, the arc took place when they finally got going on lap 5 or whatever it was. Lando gets a little wide out of La Source, a little wobbly. And then Oscar's like, well, I guess I'm not lifting at Eau Rouge. And so he just stayed on it. And he did the exact same thing Max did, went flying by on the Kemmel straight, and had the race position, first position in his bag, and never looked back. Game over for the race win. For the race win. I'm not talking about the race.
No, the race win, I think you're wrong there.
It was done.
Because it was Lando's to win, and 3 big mistakes cost him the chance of taking.
Oscar was saving time. That's a fun little game that Crofty was adding the math up. Oscar had time in those tires. He was returning them to the rental car agency with tread. He didn't have to do that. He could have.
Not a chance.
He wasn't pushing at all. He put in personal best the last couple laps because he had nothing to lose. He was tire managing, and Lando couldn't catch him.
Lando should and could have caught him.
But you're assuming Oscar was flat out.
No, but there'll still be enough tire difference between them. If Lando had kept that pressure on and got within that DRS, Lando would have had nothing. Oscar wouldn't have been able to fight back. And 3 big mistakes screwed his
plus
race.
A slow pit stop. I mean, I agree with everything you're saying math-wise. I just think that Oscar was managing his tires to make the mediums last all the way to the end. The McLaren, in fresh air, is gentle on its tires, more so than a lot of other cars. So I think he did a masterful job of using the car. Like you said, we said this many times. Last year, 2 years ago, can he manage his tires? He was burning them up too fast. He became, like at least today, like a Hamilton-level tire whisperer. Brought those mediums through, and he had pace at the end. He was setting his own fastest laps. I know he had less fuel, his own personal sector bests along the way. Anyway,
there's even another bigger reason, but this is probably, I'm not sure I put this all on Lando, and maybe put this more on McLaren, which was the more obvious one because it wasn't done. Lando was within. You're cutting a big story out of the race in order to arrive at that because Lando was staying within 1.8 seconds of Oscar. So Oscar wasn't dropping him. Okay? 1.8, they stayed all the way around. We were seeing lots of kind of fighting, especially kind of like Lewis on a wet track. Everybody loves watching Lewis. He was working his way through the field and just like you wrote in the notes, right? Just rapid fire overtakes of about 3 of them in a row, right?
Yeah.
Which we love watching when it's wet. We kind of get all that kind of action going on. Then we started seeing, so where did you put this? Yeah, so Lewis got Carlos, Franco, he'd already got Stroll, and then he got the gas man, all within about
Nico
2 laps of each other.
And Nico Hulkenberg first before the gas man.
Yeah. We had Max trying to get around Charles, going around the outside, and we were about 10, 11, 12 laps here, and then it started to happen where it's drying out. And I think so. It was lap 12. Hamilton pulls the trigger light first, comes in, jumps on mediums. Gasman, Hulkenberg, Alonso do the same. So now we're going to see that the track is drying. And this right here is the sliding doors moment of the entire Belgian Grand Prix as far as I'm concerned.
Why?
McLaren was so far clear at this point of Charles in third.
Yes.
Why didn't they tell, or why didn't Lando think, ease off, give myself the ability to double stack now? Because by going around again, completely screwed Lando's race. Everyone else came in at the same time. So what we had is Oscar pits, Charles and Max, the 2 that are right behind them, come in as well. So now you've got 3 of the front 4 have all pitted, and Lando just gets screwed and now has to make a let's roll the dice and jump on hards. So I know they said it on commentary as well, but we've seen it before. McLaren pulled off a brilliant double stack not long ago. Silverstone, maybe?
Yeah.
Question? I'm not sure.
But
they told him to back off a little to create the room for a double stack. That's where I think the Belgian Grand Prix race for the first was lost this weekend.
Okay, I mean, it was lost because Oscar had preference, because he had that move on lap 5, which was the first racing lap. I agree with you.
Why not double stack?
I know, I'm with you. They should have double stacked.
Okay,
I agree.
Yeah.
It was last year's British Grand Prix, if you remember, where McLaren got it all wrong, leaving people out too long. A lap on the wrong compounds. It was raining as well, and I think they were out too long on inters and then too long on softs, slicks. So for me, I'm with you, but the reason that happened, whether they messed up the strategy call or not, Oscar had it won already because he was in first, so he had preferential treatment on the pits.
With that, hang on. So Lando stays within 1.8 of Oscar. Let's say they double stack and they retain 1.
Different race. I agree with you. But
no. Okay, but you just said it's already over from the moment he overtook him on the first corner.
He had strategy preference, so it set up. It set up them doing something like this instead of double stacking. So, can I be clear? You think there's more to this race than I do. It was lap 5 when the race started. It was lap 12 when Hamilton boxed, and we all agree that the tire management came into it from that point on. That's 8 laps. We got 8 fun laps with Lewis driving a Mario Kart on a mushroom, passing everybody all over the place with a power-up. That was awesome. After that, though, I thought it got kind of boring.
I think, I thought it lasted a little bit longer than that because I thought we still had some overtakes going on. We still had some battles going on, but it seemed to be about lap, I would say 20, when all the medium runners started going, these might make it. And I think, where did I put? I'm sure I wrote something in here of like, we're entering a time management phase now. It's like, oh God. And this is the bit that I was dreading. I was just praying for rain to come back because me and you have both said this before. The moment the teams get a sniff of a one-stopper, and it looks like it's going to be on the cards, the whole grid eases off just a notch. It's like everybody drops back a little bit. So now suddenly we had, George had been in Max's DRS fighting, and obviously when you're fighting someone, you're taking more life out of your tyres. He obviously got a radio call to ease off at that point because he was right at Max's trumpet from lap whatever it was, all the way up to about 18, 19. He was in his DRS, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh, okay, just had the tyre management call, better drop back into tyre management mode. And it happened all across. Everybody was just dropping back, and I'm like, this is going to stink now. This is going to absolutely suck for the rest of the race.
So the hard part, right, the tire nerd in me was excited for the non-sequential compounds, right? Having a gap in the compounds. The hard was much harder than normally the step up from the medium to the hard because Pirelli was hoping it would be slower and therefore entice people to do a two-stopper on mediums. So I'm going into this race hoping for a dry race because now we may have a strategic spa where some people are going to go two-stopping. Maybe some go one-stopping. You don't know. And so I thought this will be great. The rain, which normally I enjoy at times, caused a 14 or 13 lap inter-run, which meant now that the mediums could, as we learned, go to the end. So it took all of the strategy out of it. The only strategic risk we saw was when Lando had to go that extra lap, as we already referenced, on dead inners. He comes in and goes to hards. And Oscar even referenced in the cool-down room or in the interview, he would have done the same if it were flipped, because he thought that would be the only way to potentially put pressure on the first car was with hard tires and hoping they got there. Unfortunately, Pirelli finally gave us something that might actually cause a strategic battle, and the rain undid it the perfect amount. Just enough where the mediums could make it. And so, like, a little bit of me was watching this going, uh-oh, these are going to make it all the way, aren't they? And they're not even going to degrade that much. Everyone's just going to make it to the end. They'll manage, make it a lull, and then they're going to just make it to the end. But we did have some cool stuff. You're right. I shouldn't be. Like, our guy, Isaac, was dropping like a rock. I don't know what happened to the RB.
Did he have a car problem or something? Because he just went backwards. Like, he was up
so
there.
Weird.
And I know the commentators called it out. They said a couple of the cars that pitted later really suffered for it. People that had been making up good time was suddenly dropped back. Okay, fine. So I think it was Hadjar, Ocon, someone else. They basically said had been running in the points, left it one lap too late to pit, and now they're dropping back. Okay, that shouldn't take all your pace away from you. Oh, that's fine. Hadjar can get back on it now and start climbing up. And all we watched was him just go backwards in slow motion. There was one point where Carlos took him, where I think Crofty went, I think he lifted because he was catching Hadjar too quickly, had to lift, then put his foot back down again and still passed him on the Kemmel straight. It was like, that's how much speed differentiation. That's not a word. I got close to the right word, but that wasn't the right word. But yeah, so then we saw Sauber swap cars. Bortoletto said he was faster than Holt, and we did the same thing that we always see happen. Car behind says I'm faster, proceeds to go past, proceeds to not make an indent under the car in front.
Exactly. 100%.
Taylor's oldest time.
It's actually more rare when it does work. Like, there has to be a massive tire difference or something when they swap cars for it to actually benefit. These guys were like basically on the same thing, swap positions and do nothing. All right, and then we saw Kimi get Franco, Stroll got Franco. Lap 26, from lap 26 at this point already, the gas man was leading a 5-car, himself included, DRS train. Choo-choo! 5 cars in a row. It looked awesome on TV for about 2 laps, and you realize ain't no one going to get anybody else. This is a Fernando Alonso style DRS train. They're all in order. But kudos to the gas man, because by lap 44 in the checkered flag, he was still in front of that train. It was only 3 cars at that point. But that was good on him. And Ollie Behrman moved up the train a little bit. He jumped from, one car to the other, and wanted to go to the cafe car and then use the bathroom car and do all the other things in the DRS train. But man, the gas man just led that boring ass DRS train in the midfield.
Yeah,
but good for him. That's hard to maintain that for over half the race.
And this is the thing. This is for all of the people wanting to jump on the whole. But I don't buy into this. Christian Horner banned any of the upgrades going on Yuki's car because he wanted to keep them as spare parts for Max.
I don't believe
that. What's his name? Mikey's has just come in and taken a look at it and gone, okay, I'm not sure. I'm going to reallocate this and I'm going to put these parts on Yuki's. Let's see what he can do. That could have been the plan all along, that in Spa, Yuki was going to get the upgrades. Looked good in Quali. He got himself 7th. The fact that in a Red Bull, behind an Alpine that hasn't looked that quick because we've just watched Colapinto going backwards a fair rate of knots, and that Yuki being the car directly behind Gasman. Gasman hasn't got DRS of the car in front. Gasman is cut adrift at this point. And Yuki in a Red Bull cannot get past an Alpine for 3,000 laps. Anybody wanting to paint the whole Yuki's back, he got a new floor, everything's great in the second seat, it isn't. I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. I like Yuki too much to feel so negative about it. I felt vindicated when they said, "Oh, we've just bolted his new floor on after the sprint race, but before the regular race quali." I'm like, "Well, you had it the whole time?" Question. And he still doesn't have all the bits Max has, so I'm really excited. And then he got kind of hosed in the pit stops after the race, and I don't know. I expected more. I did. He finished 13th? Yeah, he finished 13th. I know.
In the DRS of an Alpine.
And you got to be able to pass the Alpine. I know.
Especially down the Kemmel Straight.
I know. I don't know what to say.
Let's move on then. So here is lap 26 is the second. If the first stake through the heart of Lando's race was not the double stacking, the second one is, as Brundle was saying, your job now as the driver behind, where you've got tyres that are going to last to the end, is to just keep the pressure on the driver in front. Make them go faster than they want to go to degrade. Don't let Oscar sit there and just do tyre management for the next, we're on 26, almost 18 laps. Don't let him sit there and just have it his way. Put pressure on. And we've said it before, and I don't want to say it again too much because I know we have a lot of Lando fans that listen, but we've questioned Lando's ability to be consistent when it really matters.
Yes.
And lap 26, where he just has a bit of a brain fart and just goes wide, runs out wide, loses over a second that he'd been gently clawing into Oscar to put him under pressure. Best thing Oscar wants to hear on the radio is, Lando's just gone wide. He's back to 9.1 seconds behind you.
He's on the outside of the track at Pouan. I mean, off the track, outside the curbing.
Yeah, exactly.
That was. Yeah. We do say that, and he had 3 of these mistakes along the way. A lockup later, and I forgot what the other one was.
He had a lockup coming around to La Source around lap 34, and even despite these 2, so you're right. It is playing the maths game a little bit, and Crofty was kind of there, and I was all for it, which is that the 1.2 that he loses running out wide, the 1.1 or whatever it is that he lost when he locked up at La Source, he still got to a point where we got down to 5 laps to go. I wrote 5, but I was wrong because I can never work out how many laps there are left. There were 6 laps at this point. So it was 6 laps, 5 seconds, and he's taken nearly 8/10 a lap out of him. That's enough to get you into DRS for just 1 shot on the last lap, which might be all you need. So just keep this metronome going. Even if Oscar's got pace in hand, make him use it. Make him try to push it on the final lap. And he's reading him in. We're all watching it. And we're seeing the headline down the straight where we can see Oscar in the foreground and Lando right there. He can see him. He can smell blood. And then he goes and locks up again at La Source and completely kills any chance of any grandstand finish. It was just... So there were 3 of them. Three mistakes.
Yeah, I know. But again, I think you're playing the math game. Like, if the math adds up, but we're not factoring in Oscar's side of the math. And so Oscar's side...
No, I'm with you. Yeah. I'm not saying that you just give Lando automatically back 3 seconds or whatever it is, and ergo he wins. What I mean is, I think had he just been able to keep himself as consistent as Oscar was driving,
Yeah.
I think he at least asks the question of Oscar on the last couple of laps and maybe threatens getting into DRS in the final one.
Agreed.
Oscar probably still takes it home and fends him off, but it's these little mistakes. We are now going into Hungary with 16 points difference when it could have been 2. And it's going to be races like Spa that Lando's going to look back at potentially and just see points that got away not because Oscar outdrove him, but because he makes these little mistakes all the time.
Yeah. We didn't talk about this one move that I enjoyed when Kimi took Esteban at the end of the Kemmel Straight into Lake Home. And so Kimi kind of dives bombs on the outside. It was controlled. He made the corners, but because he went on the outside and it was a bit of a dive bomb, he took the wrong angle into the next corner. And Esteban, being a wily old campaigner at this point, noticed this immediately. He's going real shallow in this way, and he's going to go real deep out of the corner and just switcherooed him on the inside and took the spot back. That was some pretty good racing. I enjoyed that as we watched that happen. That also made it into the cool-down room, and I don't know if you saw that. They were showing it, and the entirety of the podium watched this. Charles, Oscar, and Lando, they watched Kimi's move like, ooh, because then it didn't stick, right? It didn't stick because Esti Bestie took it back. But watching them enjoy that was great. Here's the downside for this Spa 2025 race. That was about the only thing after the first 8 laps that made anyone make any noises. That's my opinion. You disagree with me, but that's kind of...
I totally... No, I agree with you. It was a snooze fest once it dried up. I just think that all I was saying was I think it could have been closer had Lando not made those mistakes. But I really think McLaren messed it up without not doing the double stack. It was going to be much harder ask from there on in. The only thing we kind of maybe got a little bit of, again, a little dangling in front of us, maybe a bit of excitement that never happened, is Charles also made a mistake and locked up, which got Max to 1.1, but Max could never quite get that 0.1 out of the way to get into Charles's DRS. So, Charles did a phenomenal race, really.
He did.
When they were interviewing him, he basically had Max 2 seconds behind him for 44 laps.
He did. Which is, that's the last person you want sitting around.
Exactly.
Right behind you.
I got to be honest, I didn't see that coming. I was convinced that Max was on the podium in this race. Right from when Oscar got Lando and Max was so close up behind Charles, I'm just thinking it's just a matter of time. But Charles drove a brilliant race. He was in a car that didn't have the pace to catch the McLaren, so he didn't bother. He just did a combo of tyre management / keep Max behind me moves. There was one, I don't even know which lap it was. Oh my gosh, where was it where they were level? Was it back at lap 11? Like, we completely missed this.
Yep.
Max came out of La Source with about 15 times the grip of Charles and was right alongside him. I was like, well, that's that then. Max has got Charles now. There's no chance here. And Charles just somehow gathered it together to just go side by side all the way down the hill, all the way down to Radillon. And then by the time they were climbing back up, Charles was ahead. And I was like, well, it's fine. Max is just going to slipstream him. But whether he used all of his battery plus stole a battery off Lewis at that point as well and used that, I don't know, because I really don't know how Charles kept ahead. And it was like, after that happened, it was almost like this little bit of belief grew inside Charles where he's like, I can keep him behind me. I don't think Max ever really got another sniff at him after that.
No, he didn't.
Good drive by Charles today, I thought.
Agree with you. I think it was fun watching Lewis in the beginning laps. It was fun watching Charles fend off Max, keep him outside of DRS as best he could. It was interesting watching Pierre Gasly hold off the DRS train participants for as long as he did. It was disappointing watching Yuki's race unfold, Isaac's race unfold, and Kimi's race unfold, in my opinion. We're kind of previewing the pits and the King of the Pits. Maybe we should just jump there. But those were some of the people that I felt were kind of disappointing in what we saw from them today.
Yeah, if we just look at the result of the top 10, the point scorers, obviously Oscar from Lando, from Charles, Max. George was in witness protection, brought it home in 5th. Alex Albon brought it back in 6th. He managed to hold off a charging Lewis.
Carlos in 18th. That's a big teammate delta.
Yep. Liam Lawson, 8th. And Isaac probably still going around now. He was the only one to get lapped today, I think.
Isaac. Oh, it hurts.
And Gabriel Bortoleto in ninth. Not
Ninth.
even having to hold off. Not even having to hold off Pierre Gasly in his DRS train. He finished 16-ish seconds clear of the gas man.
That's insane.
That's well done. Well done, Mr. Bortoleto. That is
Yeah.
brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. So, yeah, do you want to do King of the Pits in the pits?
Let's do it right now.
I'm torn on this one. I really am.
Me too. On both. I'm torn on both.
King of the pit.
All right. King of the Pits. King of the Pits. King of the Pits. I'll go first on this one because they're both
You
going
go
to be
first,
hard.
sir.
King of the Pits. King of the Pits. The King of the Pits is definitely going to be the King. And when you're the King, you're Charles Leclerc. Charles Leclerc. I'm going to give it to Charles.
Okay.
Yeah, you know what? As I look at it, like we were talking about, I was going to give it to Lewis, who won the Driver of the Day vote because of all those overtakes, and that was fun. And he did some amazing stuff. But when you have the 4-time defending reigning world champion behind you, who is known as someone who is just vicious with his overtakes, and if he's close, he's going to get you. How do you hold Max back for that long? And I know Max had more downforce than the day before, but he didn't have that much. And Charles's car on the Inters was like on ice skates. And to your point, he held him off neck and neck at some moves. So I'm giving it to Charles just because I really like Charles. And I was torn, so tie goes to the runner. How about you? Who's your king?
Well, mine actually was a coin flip between Oscar and Bortoleto. Because Oscar, to know that he was going to come under pressure from his teammate and have to do what he had to do to keep those tyres alive, just never put a foot wrong. He sensed that Lando did the restart. I think Lando kind of messed up the restart from behind the safety car, which allowed Oscar to have the run at him into the source.
The start, yeah.
Yeah, Lando went
wasn't a restart, it was the start.
Well, yeah, maybe. If we'd already had 4 laps under the safety car, we're already racing. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Semantics. So maybe Oscar. Bortoleto. If you look at his arc, he'd gone from being out in Q1 to getting it into 10th. He's there on merit. He's finished 1 place up. He's called in to swap with his teammate because he's faster than him and has shown that he then did outrace Hulkenberg for the rest of it.
But he didn't get the guy they swapped him for. Whoever they were chasing.
He didn't get the guy they were chasing, but he did finish positions ahead of Hulk.
Yep.
Hulk was further back. And he's a rookie, and it was wet, and he didn't crash. I know nobody did. Like at Silverstone, I think we lost every single one of the rookies to the rain. But which meant that all the rookies came into this race with pressure on their backs because all of them had completely bombed out in the previous wet race. So for that reason, and because we've given it to Oscar before, I'm giving it to Bort. Because
nice.
we beat up on them a lot when it was a tractor of a car. So I think we got it. We've given Hulk's had it once from us, and now the Bort.
Well, let's talk about the pits.
You're the pits.
You get to go first on this one.
See, I was on a bit of a rant that I was going to give it to Pirelli, but, and it's not very often I say this, so you might want to crop this out. Maybe Mr. Andy Ellis, if you're listening, you crop it out and to put it into another song. But Brian, you're right, and the argument that you made completely convinced me that you know what you're talking about. It's not Pirelli's fault, is it? The rain came along and unfortunately undid all of Pirelli's good plans with the gap in the compounds. So I was fully going to give this to Pirelli until you spoke those words of wisdom. So,
well, wow. I appreciate the compliment.
Heard it here first. My gosh.
And on that, we're ending the podcast forever. I'm just kidding.
Which now puts me in a real quandary because it's like, what? Am I going to give it to Mother Nature for sending just the wrong amount of rain?
What? Rain just the wrong amount.
Well, it did. If it had carried on raining longer, or the rain had returned, I think we'd have had an absolute barnstorming spell.
Agreed.
It rained for just the perfectly
to undo
wrong
the
amount.
tire strategy, but not enough to make the race fascinating after we went to slicks.
Yeah. So I can't give You're the Pits to Mother Nature, which means I'm blatantly padding to try to work out who the heck am I going to give
today,
this to?
Junior?
So, come on, hang on a minute. You did the whole King of the Pits padding for about 16,000 years. So, I'm going to have to give it to Carlos Sainz.
Yep, fair.
Because, like you said, if I look at who finished down the bottom, Hadjar, something must have gone wrong with that car. He had pace, they pit, and then he was the only one to get lapped. I mean, he was looking quick and then just wasn't. I mean, his fastest lap was comparable with Gasly, which is crazy. Anyway, and then Colapinto, well, we beat up on him a lot, so I can't do that. So the next one up in 18th is Carlos Sainz wallowing around in 18th while Albon's up in 6th scoring points in the same car. So yeah, it's Carlos.
All right, I'm going to give it to Aston Martin as a team.
Ooh,
I know I
okay.
gave it to Adrian Newey for his Red Bull work before. I'm not giving this to Newey. I'm giving this to Aston Martin, who just had a weekend to forget. Just a horrible qualies race, the whole deal. They went from being a year and a half ago, they were like that fifth team right behind the top four, close but not quite. They had, if you remember even before that, Fernando was on podiums in 23. Now they are arguably a forgettable backmarker team at this weekend. I mean, their top finisher was 14th. Did anyone have two cars behind them? No. There was one Haas, there was one Mercedes, there was one Williams, one Alpine, and one RB. They had the lowest duo in the race.
No, that's a good shout.
We didn't talk about him. Fernando Alonso, who we all think still has talent, 17th. So I'm giving it to Aston Martin.
No, that's a good shout. That's a good call.
All right, so let's hear from Paul on his Sunday review. Here we go.
Hey now, Sunday. We've just started the final lap of the Grand Prix in Spa, and the third of the Triple Gooch, and it started a wet Gooch. I'm gonna be honest, I sort of wanted more, and it was like the first part of the race where like the crossover dries. Yeah, it's exciting, but it was quite interesting because like it dried so quick, and then teams couldn't double stack, and then you saw, where teams like Haas, it screwed Yuki, who I think's had an excellent weekend, it screwed him. Then people like Lewis, it really benefited. And I think Lewis worthy of. I think he's going to get driver of the day again. Not that it means anything to these guys, I'm pretty sure, but I expected more. From a wet gooch to a dry gooch, it needed more water on the gooch, I think, is what I would say. It needed a bit more dampness, a little touch more moisture. At different times, I think the difference with Silverstone is it was so interchangeable. Like this has just been, wet, then dry. I know we were chatting, guys, on message at the start. I think there was a little bit too messing around at the start, but then you can't argue. They've got a decent racing. It's brilliant, no, but they got a decent racing, so maybe it was the right decision just to delay the start. We're all experts sitting on armchairs, is what you got to remember. I would have rather seen the cars out there drying the track or go around doing something. As we speak, Oscar wins. Lando comes home in second. Again, little mistakes from Lando. I'm telling you, Oscar's just so calm. He's almost annoyingly calm. Like in a situation like, is the medium tire going to last the duration? No, but obviously it did for everyone. But like, he's just sort of like, yeah, it'll be tricky, but we'll manage. Charles Leclerc third. Good drive, actually, for him, for a Ferrari. Max fourth, I thought, all round did a decent job. George Russell, 13 seconds down. I think that's very disappointing. Alex Albon, fair play. I won't lie. We spoke about cars out of position. I think Alex is really out of position, but he has brought the car home, Lewis just behind him. We've touched on Lewis. Excellent, I think. Liam, Bortoletto, Gasly again scoring points. And then from there, really, it was just what it was. I'm surprised Antonelli didn't come through the track quicker. Good for the field tricker, should I say? I don't know what I'm trying to say there. All teeth and no words. Apart from that, yeah, some weird ones. Isaac Hajar, there's obviously something wrong with that car, but
agreed.
It's not going to get on my. I probably won't get on my top 10 races of the season. This one, I won't lie. I thought it. I expected so much more. I was so excited for it. Wet, drying. Did they overcomplicate it at the start? I don't think so. I get it. I see both sides. From a fan point of view, you want to see the stuff out there. But, Yeah, from a safety point of view, and also you got to bear in mind, this track has had a history of people sadly losing lives in these conditions. So I've got to see both sides. As a fan, I would like to have seen more cars on track at the start, but hey, good job. Whatever. They got a Grand Prix, and that's more than they did a few years ago. So let's just be happy at that. But in terms of, is this going to go down as a classic? No. Is it going to go down as another Oscar Piastri absolute masterclass? Absolutely, 100%. Faultless, excellent, deserved. Lando tried, very impressive on hard tyre. I'm not going to knock him. Apart from that, yeah, it was what it was, really, wasn't it? I think I said yesterday I expected Oscar to be in the lead by the first corner, and yeah, it's sort of where he was ultimately. Pole position here is not worth a great deal. It's almost a disadvantage to you. So, hey, what it is, Lando don't look happy. That's life. Take care, guys, and see you next week. I will actually be in Budapest, so it will be back to an official Pitlane Paul. Although, to be fair, by the time I've recorded it on a Sunday, I'll probably be at home. Actually, I probably won't even watch the race because I'm pretty sure I'm in a transfer from Heathrow to Brackley, but I'll try my best. Could be a terrible report. But we won't know until after the race. It's pointless telling you this now because by the time the race is finished next...
Oh, not again.
Yeah, see you next week.
Now we're working on the future. We're now working on the future
really
problems.
Is. It's like Doctor Who. He's all over the place. But anyway, I know what everyone's really wanting to know before we put a bow around this and do the standings is what happened in Rob versus Brian.
Yes.
Well, the roulette table spun up position number 8.
Okay.
And neither Pierre Gasly for me or Isaac Hadjar for you came... Well, Gasly came close, but we don't give out points for closeness, so
right.
No dice. 3-card poker. I had Lando Oscar George. I had 2 right in the wrong order. You had Max Charles Lewis. You had 2 right in the wrong order, so no winning hand there. I've purposely left blackjack to the end. George, for me, scored 10 points. But have you got the round of applause effect or the cheering effect on hand for you, Brian?
I have it, yes.
Because you picked Charles Leclerc, who came home 3rd and scored you
15.
You picked Lewis Hamilton, who came home in 7th and scored you
6.
Which means you scored a perfect
21. I got blackjack.
Yeah, you did.
Have we ever had that happen before where we got an actual 21? I mean, we've been close. You had a couple where you were like on 20.
I've got all of them here. I can look back through at some point. But it doesn't happen very often, even if we have. So well done, sir.
Well, all I did was pick the Ferrari boys, but it worked out for me.
I know. What that meant was that in the casino games, you now take a 15-12 lead, which is a 3-point lead in my reckoning. But my podium predictions of Oscar, Lando, George meant that I got Oscar and Lando in the right order. You had Lando, Oscar, Max, which means I wiped the floor with you this week to, in the podium prediction league, which also counts, all these points will amass together at the end of the season. After Spa, I am beating you 41-38, which by my reckoning is a 3-point lead, which means casino and predictions means you can't split us.
I don't know how you're scoring the podium stuff, but sounds great. That sounds about right.
It
doesn't matter.
It's very, very easy, Brian.
Don't explain it. No,
I'm doing it now. Lando got you a point for being on the podium. Oscar got you a point for being on the podium. But for me, Oscar got me 3 and Lando got me 3 because I got them in the exact right position on the podium. So 1 point for getting a driver, 3 for getting them right. So you can get a maximum of 9 and a minimum of 0. Which I'm the only one so far to have pulled a 0 where I got none of the finishes right in Canada. So we haven't had a 9 yet. Nobody's nailed all 3 in the right order.
Well, I'll do that for the next race, which is coming up in 1 week's time. We'll be in Hungary at Budapest. But by the way, fantasy, just to close out officially the weekend, is calculating because we're doing this right after. So we will get back to that next week with a recap of the fantasy from the Belgian Grand Prix. So, Rob, you want to talk a little bit about the Hungaroring?
Yeah, we will. Yeah, so hang on, we had one last. We just quick standings. So we already said Oscar now leads Lando by 16 points. Max is back in 3rd on 185. George hanging around in 4th on 157. Charles 139. Lewis 109. Me 63, Albon 54, Ulk 37, and Esti Besti rounds out the top 10 on 27. Not going to do the rest of them. And that means that over in Constructorland, McLaren on 516, more than double the points of Ferrari in second on 248 points. Mercedes down on 220, Red Bull on 192, Williams on 70, Sauber 43 because the Bort is on a mission. Poor old Racing Bull's dropping back now, 41. Aston Martin 36, like you said, they're sinking. They got Haas right behind them, a point behind on 35, and Alpine are bringing up the rear on 20 points. And Colapinto is now one of the only pointless people on the grid.
So yeah, it's Alpine. It's all Pierre. There's no Doohan or Colapinto points.
Yep.
The fascinating thing for me in that is that Haas in ninth is 1 point behind Aston Martin. Haas has been in the points, right? They've been sniffing around the points and been up there. Behrman was 11th in the Haas, which we heard about 47 times, was his fourth time in a row finishing 11th, which ties the all-time record for the most times finishing in a non-winning position. And Ocon was 15th, but I think there's a real chance at the Hungaroring we see, going into the summer break, we see Aston Martin in ninth in the Constructors.
I know, can you imagine?
Dang, son, that's bad.
I know. But to go into the summer break, we must first get through Hungary. At the Hungaroring, 70 laps of a 2.722 mile track. So the polar opposite of what we had today. One of the shortest tracks, I think. So therefore, we're one of the highest lap counts. Nicknamed Monaco without barriers. I hate to do the foreshadowing of something we might not enjoy, but nickname Monaco without barriers because it doesn't tend to have very many exciting races there.
But they're usually, these two races are usually around each other before the summer break in the last handful of years. And I like this for one reason. Spa is beautiful and has history and tradition, and it hasn't really delivered a lot the last couple of years, at least versus expectations. So let me talk about that, Rob, because we are both lowering our expectations. So anything short of an absolute stinker, I will enjoy.
True. That is the silver lining for Hungary. It's given us some moments in the past. If we got rain today and we expected it at Spa, we probably won't in Hungary. It's been on the calendar for 37 years since it opened in 1986, and it took 20 years before we had a wet race in 2006. I'm not sure we've really had too much since. 2009, we had a horrible incident when a piece of a spring from Button's Brawn went through Massa's helmet and knocked him unconscious, and he crashed into a tyre barrier unconscious, which was a nasty crash. 2021, one of our kind of favourite little silly moments to refer to is when Valtteri went bowling with his own car, took out everybody. I think that must have been the wet race. That was in the rain, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that's probably the only wet one since the previous one. And this is the restart when Lewis was the only one to pit. And stayed on. Sorry, not pit. He stayed on slicks, and we had that bizarre start where only Lewis was on the grid and everyone else is in the pit lane. So yeah,
I mean, that was actually fascinating. I know we're not reviewing
Yeah.
the 21 race, but how do you box from first when you're not sure if everyone else is going to and give away track position? That was exactly what happened. Lewis got kind of hosed by coming around first after that effort for the formation lap for the restart. Anyway,
yeah, last year the race wasn't really very good. We had I went back. I do this now. Maybe we should make a little feature of this where we re-review our review from the previous years. Now that we've been doing this for a few years, but anyway, Qualy Perez had a massive crash in Q1, which red flagged the session and screwed George and knocked him out. Yuki decided he was going to bin it big time in Q3, which meant nobody put a chance to challenge Lando's provisional pole. So we had Lando from Oscar from Max and Carlos, Lewis, and Charles rounding out the front three rows. The race, it really just remembered for the beginning of the Papaya Rules origin story. Norris pitted to cover an undercut from Lewis, even though Oscar was the lead car, so Oscar should have had the priority.
correct.
So
Oscar
when
was
Lando,
the lead car,
Yep.
should have had preference, but they
Yep.
gave it to Lando to prevent an undercut from Lewis. Exactly like you said.
Yep. And then that meant Lando took the lead once Oscar pitted, so he basically undercut his teammate. So everyone was like, well, we're just going to give the place back because we did that to fend off from Lewis. So Lando, be a good lad, pull over. let Oscar back, and then you guys can go racing. And that happened on, well, I didn't write down what lap it happened on, but what it gave us was a 20-lap debate on how can I pressure Lando to give this back? Remember Monday morning meetings?
I've got the sounds queued up if you stop talking.
Okay, have you? Okay.
Oh, now's the time? Okay.
Just remember, every single Sunday morning meeting we have.
That, and then this.
The way to win a championship is not by yourself. It's with the team. You're going to need Oscar, and you're going to need the team.
And then they just kind of kept going through.
And Lando, we still think you're using the tyres too much. Turn 4, turn 11.
They were begging with him to slow down.
Turn 6, turn 9. Oscar's 3.5. I know you'll do the right thing.
Will he? Because
it's going to get boring.
I mean, it just never stopped. There was...
I promise, I'm trying to protect you.
And then coming from that
Papaya
was...
rules.
Papaya rules. It was crazy. It was absolutely bananas to watch this unfold last year.
Yeah, which at least gave us something to review, because the race itself was pretty rubbish, but we had 20 laps of Willy Won't He, and then finally on lap 68 he kind of pulled over. Was it almost on the finishing line, wasn't it? He pulled over just to let Oscar go past him.
No, it was a couple laps
Was there a lap to go?
But 3 or 4 laps to go.
Was it really that many? Because
yeah.
he never got a chance to attack, did he? He let him go and didn't hold on to him. So, yeah, I mean, it gave... first McLaren 1-2 since 2021. It was Oscar's maiden win, but he did not look happy to have earned it under those conditions. It was all a bit of a mooted podium, really, because everybody was all in a bit of a stroppy mess. Lewis, though, made it 200 career podiums, the first driver ever to do it. And Lando did then later admit, as we'd said on this pokey little pod, if you'd have just given him the place back straight away, you would have had 20-plus laps to attack him where you blatantly looked like you were the quicker car.
Yeah.
But by just eking it out and being a bit, sorry, but childish for 20 laps and then ultimately giving the place back anyway, just cost himself any chance of being able to take him on. But anyway, that's all we really had last year.
It was, as you say, Oscar's maiden win. There have been 6 first-time winners at the Hungaroring. And interestingly, of those 6, they're all either champions or until now, so it kind of broke this, but at the time it was their single win. So it was Damon Hill, Fernando Alonso, Jenson Button, all got their first wins at the Hungaroring, all champions. And these are in order. Then Kovalainen, Ocon, and Piastri. And those were all their first and only wins. But Piastri obviously went on right after that to win more. So kind of broke it. But there are some tracks where that's all you have. It's kind of fascinating when you dig into, which I did, when you dig into where people got their first wins. There are some tracks where someone wins and then wins 1 or 2 more times. But there are occasionally tracks where the only people to get their first wins are champions or single winners. That was their only win ever. Wow. So there's a few of them. We won't go through them all now, but Watkins, Glenn, Reims, and then if you require at least 2 first-time winners, because otherwise it's kind of a unique stat, Barcelona, Pastor Maldonado, and Max Verstappen. Maldonado's only win, Max champion. Anyway, moving on. Hungaroring next week.
Yeah, and we'll see who adds to the repeat winner list. Lewis is out there on his own with 8. Twice as many as second place Michael Schumacher, Ayrton Senna with 3, and then a whole heap of drivers, of which Max is the only current one. We have Piquet, Hill, Villeneuve, as in Jacques, Mika Hakkinen, Jenson Button, Sebastian Vettel, and Max Verstappen have all got 2 wins here. And constructors-wise, McLaren way out in front with 12, ahead of Williams and Ferrari with 7, Mercedes with 5, and Red Bull with 4. So we will do our podium predictions midweek. And then we will see if, hopefully, like you say, we can get a race which, because Spa we build up and then can get easily disappointed. Hungary, we're expecting a snooze fest, so maybe we'll just get proved wrong and have a pretty decent race.
I hope so. I do think the track looks like a check engine light. So if you ever look at your check engine light, the track layout looks like the Hungaroring. That's my little...
There's
comment.
Me trying to build it up to sort of say that we've got something to look forward to, and the most redeeming thing that you can come out with about this race is it looks like an engine light.
Yeah.
Okay. And on that note...
And on that bombshell, Rob, anything else? Or are we seriously closing it? Because we've been going here for a while. All right. Sprint weekends are hard to cover quick. Next week is not. The Hungaroring, we look forward to recapping that race with all of you in 1 week's time. Be well, everybody.